welcome. And where are you dialing in from? Minhai, Alison, Anne, where are you? It's lovely to know where you are in the world. And where are you dialing in from? Minhai, Alison, Anne.
Hey, I've written the chat section from
Chat.
Bucharest, Romania.
Oh, very good. Yeah, pop it in the chat so that we can keep it in there. Well, welcome. We've got lots of people whom we had to move from this morning to this afternoon because I was unable to do it this morning. And there'll be lots of other people who watch this in the recording. We had many people doing that last week. So I will make a start because we only have half an hour. This is just a half-hour masterclass. You'll be gone at 4:30 UK time. And this one is called The Last Real Voice. And I'd like you to consider that we're entering a world where most of what you read, hear, watch will have been made very soon, if not already, by a machine. Not some of it, most of it. And that's a little bit disquieting when you think of it, certainly from a private individual's perspective. But of course, for most businesses and content creators, the only question they're asking is, how fast can we adopt this technology? How can we automate everything? How fast can we generate more content more cheaply? Well, today I want to focus on the thing that almost everybody's missing in the rush to harness the power of AI. In a world dominated by synthetic messaging, where noise, and I mean noise in every sense of the word, I mean certainly noise in the sense of sound, but also noise in the sense of just noise in the system, signal to noise ratio, the enormous amount of stuff coming at us, that's becoming kind of overwhelming, isn't it? And we're starting to drown in digital slop on even, well-trammeled media like LinkedIn. You're getting AI posts which are starting to be responded to by AI responses. We don't need humans at all in that process, and it's hard to spot them these days. So the most valuable thing becomes not more content, more cleverness, more efficiency. The most valuable thing is the unmistakable sound of a real human being, which is what you've got talking to you right now, because I'm definitely not AI. And that's the exact thing, unfortunately, that most leaders and content creators are sanding away, eroding, getting rid of. So we've got two things happening at the same time. The human voice becomes valuable because it's becoming scarcer. And at the same time, organizations are rushing to automate it away. And that really changes the whole conversation. These two things pull against each other. As AI saturates every channel, the genuinely human voice becomes scarce. And as we know, scarcity creates value. That's why it's going to become much more valuable. But at the same time, organizations are racing off in the opposite direction, automating their communication as fast as they can. Synthetic voices on phone lines, AI chatbots, AI written everything, narration generated in seconds. All this stuff is eliminating, at some speed, the very humanity that is becoming the most valuable asset for any organization. Now, I would ask you to notice how this differs from any AI conversations that you've probably been having recently if you're looking into AI, because almost every talk or training video you've sat through on AI is about adoption, how to bring the technology in. I'm asking the exact opposite question, and it's the one that actually creates a real advantage. What is it that the technology cannot replicate? And how do you protect that? How do you value that? How do you lead with that? I think this is a survival issue because the leaders, the businesses, the brands that still sound unmistakably human are the ones that are going to earn and keep trust. The ones that automate their humanity away, they will lose that without ever quite understanding what went wrong. You can experience this very quickly for yourself on YouTube, I think. I don't know about you, but I find the algorithm quite hard to resist sometimes, because I'm sure it's done the same to you. It knows how fascinated I am by the things I love. In my case, things like cosmology, technology, and of course, I'm sure you share my fascination with prog rock. But whatever your interests are, you can now find two kinds of content on YouTube, and it's pretty clear and easy to differentiate them at the moment. Videos made by real people who usually, but not always, show themselves on the screen and whose voices are reassuringly, imperfectly human. And AI-generated videos where the intonation and the syntax don't quite sound right. The voice is anodyne and perfect, and very often the visuals are only vaguely relevant to the topic that's being discussed. They're full of stock shots and, clumsily assembled bits and pieces. I have no patience with that set of YouTube videos, and I quickly quit them and go hunting for the human. Now that's a phrase I think will be increasingly common. Hunting for the human. It'll take a long time, and I must admit I rather hope an eternity, before an AI can create a real heart and soul connection with a human being. AIs can never share our human experience. An AI is never born. It's never breastfed. It's never sung to sleep at night. It never breaks a bone and spends weeks in plaster. It never falls in love or has its heart broken. It never weeps with joy at the birth of a child. Never suffers doubts, fears, aches, pains, disease, or the loss of a loved one. All these shared experiences that we have are the unspoken connection that binds human beings together. Even in a world where listening is in such decline, as I've discussed in the previous masterclasses. And the human voice is our external expression of that human experience. Now, there's some interesting research that's coming up about this kind of topic at the moment. There's a striking early piece that I want to share with you. I should say up front, it's a small sample, so we need to treat it as an early indicator, not as a law. But I do think it reveals something quite important. In this study, the researchers played emotional voice clips to their subjects and asked them to respond. Some of the listeners were told that the voice they were about to hear was human, but some were told it was AI, but they were played the identical clip. So the only thing that changed was their belief, the context that they were listening to it with. What happened is that the people who believed they were hearing a human trusted the voice more. They felt more empathy. They felt they would give more generously to any appeals it made. They were more likely to follow its advice or to buy its offer. The sound was exactly the same. So it was the belief that it was human that was worth real money and real influence. There's an important detail that also emerged from this. Human voices are assessed as more authentic, partly because of their tiny imperfections, the little catches and waverings, what scientists call jitter and shimmer in the audio world anyway, and in scientific systems, jitter and shimmer. And these are the very things a machine smooths away. For the time being at least, imperfection is evidence of humanity. And this isn't a one-off result. There's a growing body of research finding that there's what they call an AI penalty. If you label a message as machine-made, people trust it less, and they judge it as less authentic, even when the words are absolutely identical. And that penalty shrinks when AI helps a human. It grows when it replaces one. So using AI is fine, but replacing yourself with AI, not so much. And that indicates that it's not the tool that's the problem, it's hiding the human that is the problem. This is not just about feeling, it drives commercial behaviour. Surveys this year find that about half of customers would walk away from a service the moment they discover it's entirely AI run. 4 in 10 people say they pay more simply to reach a human being. Human contact looks like becoming a luxury that people will actually pay more for. Now, what you say and how well you listen matter just as much as your delivery. There's a striking study from Catalyst, who surveyed around 900 employees about their leaders. There was a huge difference between the people who described their senior leaders as genuinely empathetic, let's call those Group 1, and those whose leaders were low on empathy, that's Group 2. So 76% of the Group 1 people said they felt engaged at work, against just 32% of Group 2. Group 1, 61% said they were able to be innovative, against, unbelievably, just 13% of Group 2. 50% of Group 1 felt their workplace was genuinely inclusive, and Group 2, that was just 17%. That's the same companies, the same pressures, the same pay grades. The only difference that changed those responses was whether the person in charge came across as an authentic human being and listened. And this is crucial to understand because trust in leaders is running very thin. DDI's global leadership forecast found that the proportion of leaders trusting their own manager had fallen to around 29%. Less than 1 in 3 leaders trust their own manager. Their conclusion about AI was really important. When leaders automate too much of their role, employees begin to see leadership as a mechanical and transactional process, and trust evaporates. The very efficiency we're all being sold is quietly draining the thing that makes people willing to follow leaders. So we have this instinct to polish ourselves, to be smooth, to be impressive, to perfect things, never to show the catch in the voice or the doubt behind the decision. That has a cost. The leaders that people trust are not the flawless ones. They're the ones who sound and behave like one of us. So here's a little paradigm shift I want to give you today, just before I finish speaking and ask for questions. It runs against, I have to say, everything we're taught about professional communication. So this is a little bit radical. The imperfections in a human voice are not flaws to be polished out. They're the evidence that it's real. And that means they're becoming valuable because authenticity is everything. So my takeaway for you is to go and audit where you and your brand, your company have sanded humanity away. Where has your communication become smooth, corporate, machine-like, and thus forgettable and likely to be distrusted in the age of AI slop? Where would sounding more human, not more polished, more human, actually be the advantage? Start with one place, maybe your next big meeting, your on-hold voice or music, the voice on your customer line, your call centers. Ask, does this sound like a person or like a machine pretending to be a person? Are you prioritizing creating invaluable human connections, or are you pursuing efficiency and perfection? You can start that audit today. You don't need anything from me to do it. But I think strategically building and maintaining trust-based relationships in every aspect of business, from how you speak and how you listen to how your whole organization sounds, well, I mean, of course, that's what I do. That's my whole purpose on the planet. And it's also what my new course, The Sound Leader, teaches in detail. The time to get on top of all of this is now. While real still is now rare, and it's becoming rarer. In a couple of years, I'm sure that AI impersonation will have improved, and sounding human will be just the minimum expected in any communication, whether it's AI or a real person, even in one-to-many communication. So it's the leaders and brands who work on this now who get imperfect authenticity right and create genuine connection now. They're the ones who will build and nourish deeper, more trusted relationships which will endure as AI becomes more and more the means of communication that we're using. If you're a leader and this matters to you, I'll put a link in the chat and we can have a conversation about my course. If you're not, don't worry. Whether you book that call or not, I am absolutely delighted you've been with me today, and I want to thank you for doing the thing that my whole purpose is about, listening consciously. So, thank you very much. That's the end of the formal proceedings. I would be absolutely delighted to answer any questions that you might want to ask me. Pop them in the chat by all means, and I will do my very best to answer them. Anyone got something they want to type into the chat as a result of what I've said today? Don't hold back. I am authentically human and happy to wait and hear from you in your authentically human fashion as well. There's no perfect question. There's no right or best question. Anything that's come up for you or around authenticity. I should say that authenticity, I think, is a larger issue, and it's not always easy to do. Mihai, could you pop it in the chat? Do you have chat window open? That would be lovely. Thank you very much, and I will happily answer it in just a second. I was going to say authenticity isn't necessarily being perfect. If you think about it, one of the most authentic people on the planet at the moment probably is Donald Trump. Now, love him or hate him, and whatever you think of him, he is pretty much out there. And I think this has been a part of the rise of populism in various different countries. It's been a reaction against bland, corporate, withheld politicians who A, have not been listening to people, and B, have not been revealing themselves or being authentic. And whatever you say about the populist leaders, there is a degree that they're perceived as authentic. Whether they are or not, different question. Mihai, did you want to type that question in, or shall I'll unmute you so you can ask it. I don't think you're on mute at the moment, so do you want to ask?
I posted in the chat, and I said, what are some criteria for authentic communication? Some things that would help us to navigate through different messages that we receive from other people, and to pinpoint some that are written with AI. If you have any ideas, would help. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think a lot of it is about sharing imperfection. And so that may be that, a leader who shares that they're agonizing on a decision, or that they've considered various things and they're not sure, or whatever it may be, sharing the process, I think, is very powerful, very often. Obviously not to the point where you appear to be dithering or uncertain, but to share the process that you've been through, to ask people for their input, which is not being a sort of sure, having this facade of a leader who knows everything and gets everything right. Well, that's not human. Humans don't get everything right. We all make mistakes. So I think owning up to mistakes, owning up to imperfections, those kind of things, obviously it's a degree that, you have to decide the amount that you do that to yourself, and how much of your whole personality you want to reveal. But I do think that some imperfections, it's like I said with the voice, the little cracks in the voice, the little gravelly bits, the ums and ers, maybe, these things which we can take out very quickly now with AI editing software, so we can make ourselves appear instantly absolutely brilliant and with no flaws or doubts or uncertainties at all. I wouldn't necessarily go there. So hitting that button to remove all fillers, for example, which you can do in editing tools like Descript, that's lovely, but is it still human? And I think that's a decision which we have to think about very carefully now. Also, authenticity is, it's not just how you say things, it's also what you say and what you do. So that requires a leader to be quite clear about things like their values. And in my trainings, I talk, the very first thing I talk about is defining values, knowing who you are. Because it's very difficult to be authentic if you don't know who you are. That does require a base where you know who you are, what your values are, what your objectives are, and you can share that with people. So I hope that is an answer there, Mihai, and gives you some ideas. Michaela, yep, I absolutely understand that. So Michaela says, in her experience, sharing these imperfections is often seen as a sign of weakness or emotionality in a predominantly male professional environment, seen as focusing too much on a kind of relational level. Yep, I do understand that. And the evidence, unfortunately, shows that, quiet people in meetings are overridden, and those are very often female. Men talk more, override more, interrupt more, and women get kind of trampled on in meetings quite regularly. And women who attempt to redress that by talking more, being more strident or more bullish, more male in a way, are seen as difficult or overbearing, or it's not taken as a positive. So I guess it's difficult to win either way. This is one of the big things that we have to adjust with, respecting and appreciating difference, which is a big part of my teaching always. Valuing difference. There are introverts who don't speak up in meetings. There are people who are just frightened and don't speak up in meetings. Males and females have different modes of operation, different ways of listening and speaking, which need to be respected and cherished in order for us to get the best out of all of them. So whilst I understand what you're saying, I think, you have to decide on the degree. So if you are in meetings and you are you're pretending to be absolutely perfect, that's not necessarily going to be great with the people that you're leading in your team, for example, because it'll come across as an impenetrable shield almost. This is down to personal choice, and it's down to assessing the situation each time. So I hope that helps. It's not easy. I didn't say it was easy, but I do think that when you're talking about AI, not necessarily human to human interaction, where you may not want to give away so much, because if you're in a meeting, people could see you, they know you're a human being. This isn't the issue. I am talking more about a playing field where you are competing with AI messaging, and the evidence that you're a human being is very powerful. And also for leaders, listening to people and perhaps being a little more vulnerable creates a much more powerful form of leadership. Let me just answer Ian. Yeah, well, there's a very strong argument that, I mean, I don't want to get into politics. I wish I hadn't mentioned his name now, but there's a strong argument to say that Donald Trump is anything but authentic, in that he's known to be extremely, he has a tenuous relationship with the truth. So in that sense, he's inauthentic. What I mean is he's authentic because stuff comes out. He's not screening at all. What you're getting is the genuine, lying, devious Donald Trump. You know, that's what you get. So he's not screening it and pretending to be perfect. That's all I mean by authentic. I don't mean that he's telling the truth. Neil, do we need or should we evolve our definition and understanding of authenticity to help better assess how we communicate and the tone of these communications? Yes, most definitely, I think. When I talked about authenticity in Hale, if you've ever seen my TED Talk, How to Speak So That People Want to Listen, I talk about the 4 foundations of powerful communication. Hale: honesty, authenticity, integrity, and love. And the authenticity I talk about there is being yourself. Now, you have to decide how much of yourself you reveal to the outside world, but being yourself, I think, is critical. And as I said, you need to understand who that is. So if we going around without a clear idea of what we stand for, what's our North Star, what are our values, what are our objectives, who are we actually, then it's very hard to be authentic. You'll tend to be more of a chameleon. So I think that is my definition of authenticity: to be yourself, to be human. And that may mean allowing people to see some of the flaws and imperfections. Completely up to you how many of those you reveal and in what context. All I'm saying really is that it's an important conversation to be in, and it's a very important level of consciousness to move to, because authenticity, whatever that means, is going to become more and more valuable as we move into an AI world. Well, we're coming to the end of our time now. I want to thank you very much, and I'll just pop in again the link if you want to book a call with me and talk about my course. Thank you very much for being with me today, and you will get an email after this with a link to the recording of this call so you can watch it again, or if you missed it, thanks for watching it on the replay. Thanks all, it's been a pleasure, and there will be another one of these next week. We'll be promoting that in the coming days. Bye-bye.